Hi everyone, it's Anya. Welcome live to this live stream today. It's Sunday afternoon at about 5 p.m. on February 16th, 2020. And I wanted to go live today to share some really powerful breakthroughs that I've been experiencing in my personal life that I think are really valuable for anyone who is working on attracting love, abundance, and awesome. I see some people hopping on live. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing how to express your boundaries through your feminine energy and a very powerful practice to express your value and power in a way that's going to attract honor, love, commitment, and devotion from your partner or someone that you'd like to be in a relationship with. So I'm really excited to dive in today. If you're here live, feel free to share where you're tuning in from, and we'll get going. So let's see where to start. There's a lot that I want to share, and it's been a while since I've gone live here on YouTube because I've been diving into really powerful experiences myself in love and just huge transformation within myself. So I'm really excited to share. This all started from a couple places. One, in my feminine elevation system, the group that's going through that program right now, a really powerful group of 20 women that are diving deep into this divine feminine wisdom. And one of the common things that was coming up was just this question of how do I express my power and my value in this world and stay open, soft, receptive, and warm, while also expressing my boundaries and not inviting, let's say, masculine energy in a way that doesn't feel good. And I think we can all, we've all had the experience of attracting masculine energy that doesn't feel honoring and the discomfort of that. Hi, awesome, from England. Great, beautiful. So what I wanted to share in this video is how to stay open and receptive so that you can attract and receive everything that you're meant to receive as the goddess energy, while also commanding your space and your life and really commanding honor and respect and not really attracting those energies from perhaps men or masculine energies out in the world that don't feel honoring. All right, so there's a lot to share in this video. I'm just going to go for it. One of the things that I want to start with is, if anyone's ever read the book, The Queen's Code by Alison Armstrong, it's a powerful book. And if you hadn't, I recommend getting it. And I've been reading this book and want to share super powerful perspectives. So women, part of this conversation today is about being objectified and the discomfort of that, and how we've all been catcalled, we've all felt objectified in some way or sexualized at some point in our lives. It's just kind of a common experience as a woman, and it's not that fun. So what happens is, because that experience feels so bad, we end up closing off because we're trying to protect ourselves from receiving that energy that doesn't feel good. So we'll end up putting up the shield or averting our eye contact and our gaze toward men in general in the world, really trying to protect ourselves and shield ourselves from those kinds of energies. Hi, Deanna, good to see you. It's so wonderful to be back here alive. And so there's the tricky thing about this is we're actually, without knowing it, really hurting one another as men and women. So the experience of being objectified, and this is what Alison Armstrong describes in the book, The Queen's Code, the experience of being objectified is the experience of us receiving the message of, you are an object, you are one dimension, and I'm going to simplify your, when we're objectified, we're being simplified into a simple form, which is the exact opposite of what the feminine energy and what the goddess really is. The goddess is multidimensional, completely dynamic, ever-changing, and it's really, it's all of the energies. So to be objectified is really feeling the experience of the opposite of our truth. That's why it feels so bad to be objectified and sexualized, because it's not our truth. We are spiritual, beings as well as physical beings, but our power as women comes from that energetic spiritual connection. This is the crazy thing though. So on the other side of things, being emasculated is it's the same kind of pain, the same depth of pain that we experience as women when we're objectified. So a man being emasculated is basically the same thing that we experience when we're catcalled or when we're, simplified into some sexual object. So emasculating is something that I actually feel our culture that most women have been conditioned to do to men as a way to protect themselves. And this is really detrimental because if we're not conscious of those subtle ways that we emasculate men, we're actually perpetuating, we are the source of the perpetuation of the toxic masculinity on the planet. Some people don't like that term. I just use it for simplicity. But when we are unconscious of the ways that we actually take power away from men, and I'll share about some of the subtle ways we do this in a moment, we are actually basically doing the equivalent of objectifying a woman. When we're emasculating a man, it's the same wound, it's the same detriment of a woman being objectified. So I'm kind of at this point with Elevated Woman and my message and what I've been sharing recently, where I want to really, really anchor in the importance of taking responsibility for how we not just empower ourselves, but also empower the masculine in the world in all form. And really get real that if you are wanting love or you're wanting to experience deep divine union with your partner, then it's crucial to take responsibility for all the wounds that you have toward the masculine and to completely let go of any blaming or victimhood around your relationship toward men. When you do this, you gain power. You gain power in a really special way as a woman, because in doing this process of healing your relationship toward men and the masculine energy on the planet, you ultimately are going to be able to attract divine masculine energy into your life in a way that is not yet very prevalent on the planet. So you become this sort of standalone being that's actually very healing for this earth. So I'm going to go into this a little bit more. And if this is provoking anything for you, feel free to ask questions in the chat or share comments, share perspectives that are coming to you as we talk about this. This is a pretty edgy, new kind of way of speaking about the dynamic between men and women and masculine and feminine, but it feels so important right now. So one of the simple ways that we emasculate men is actually when we ignore the masculine. When we're, let's say, I notice I do this all the time. I do this still unconsciously, subconsciously. I'm shifting it right now in my life. But when we're, let's say, at the grocery store and we're just trying to, get our groceries, and perhaps we kind of like perceive and sense men around us, or we see men around us, and maybe you sense that a guy is looking at you, and without necessarily even knowing what he looks like, who he is, what his energy is, a lot of women, I know I was this way and am conditioning myself out of it, will automatically shut down around that masculine energy out of protection and out of fear. And the way that we can sometimes do this is literally just avert our eyes or kind of put up this closed, cold energy that doesn't allow us to be met and really felt. And so I want to talk about this and why this is important. When you ignore a man, when, let's say, he holds the door open for you and you're just like, maybe you're warm, or maybe you're just kind of like a quick thank you and you're not really willing to really meet him in that moment and see him, he is experiencing not being seen for his power. So the masculine energy and masculine power is the energy of really safety, protection, security, stability, and love in its absolute highest. So when we're out there in the world, avoiding the eye contact of men out of fear that we are going to be objectified, we're actually doing the same thing by emasculating them. Being a man experiencing being ignored by a woman, especially a woman who holds a certain level of awakened feminine energy and power, when you ignore him, it's deeply painful to a man's heart. And so I'm just going to take a moment. We can just all feel that for a second. The inner child, the little boy in a man, is wounded when that happens. It hurts. And part of, I believe, this is my perspective, and I'm continuing to kind of build research around this and just get different perspectives from men and women on this topic. But the masculine ultimately wants to be seen for its power, just as the feminine wants to be seen for its power. So we as women want to be, ignoring him is not the same as leaning back. It's actually really, really not. Thank you, Stephanie. That's really sweet. So I'll tell you, I'll talk about that in a moment. Ginny, thanks for asking that question. So just like we want to be seen for our power and our beauty and our depth and our feeling and emotion and wisdom and intelligence and beauty, we really want to be seen for our inner beauty. The masculine wants to be seen for its inner strength and its inner gifts as well. So one of those gifts is the ability to protect, the ability to create safety and security. So when we're ignoring the masculine and we're hiding and we're protecting ourselves, we're essentially sending a message of you're not safe. And you see how opposite that is of true masculine power. It's the exact opposite. Just like when we're sent the message of you are an object, it's the exact opposite of our truth. I'm bringing this conversation to the table because I know that if you're on this journey of awakening your feminine power, you know the importance of being warm and open and receptive and welcoming, because those are all feminine energies. But there can be some confusion of how to do this while also feeling safe in the world. So I want to talk about how to set boundaries in a way that it really comes from your feminine energy and commands honor, respect, devotion, and love in however you experience it in the world. Okay. So I'd love to hear from you. What is your experience when you're out in the world? How do you relate to the masculine presence? Do you feel really open, or do you feel closed off? Do you feel safe and trusting, or do you feel fearful? I just want you to really connect to your general experience, general association toward men. And remember that if you're wanting masculine energy in your life, you're wanting love, commitment, you're wanting partnership from a powerful masculine energy person, then it's important to look at your resistance and wounding around the masculine. Do you see how important that is? So that's what we're doing here, is revealing this. And I'm going to share an exercise at the end, so make sure to stay to the end, and we'll go through a really powerful visualization for this. Okay, there is a need for me to shoot down my light if it was dangerous to shine. Yeah, I think that we've all had that experience of just of kind of wanting to close off our truth in order to not necessarily attract so much energy. And yet at the same time, we want that energy. So this is what I want to go into next. What I've also recognized is that in this world, we're seeing the sexualization of the feminine go toward younger and younger girls, and ultimately be embodied in women that are older, or in all ages, in a way that isn't fully mature. So let's see. Amazing. Thank you guys for sharing. So fearful, my relationships have been long distance. Interesting. Good awareness. Definitely shy away and avoid eye contact and become closed off. Can't receive or trust. So one more thing on that, when we're ignoring the masculine, if you notice this, you just start to notice this and you kind of vow to yourself to just be open to the possibility that it's safe to make eye contact with masculine and you're safe. What you'll begin to notice is that when you're actually open to the eye contact, you might notice that a lot of men are actually averting their gaze. I personally used to think that was because they didn't think I was beautiful or they didn't think I was attractive, and I would take it personally and I would feel hurt by it. But what I've noticed more and more is it's not at all like that, because the masculine is attracted to any expression of the feminine in her heart and in her beauty and in her power. The masculine, in all shape, form, and size, is attracted to any feminine energy that is heart-centered, loving, and warm. It's just like a moth to a flame. It doesn't matter how old you are, what you look like. When you're in your feminine energy and your heart, you are magnetically powerful. You are in your goddess power. So what I've noticed, though, is when we are ignored or when a man averts his gaze, I truly feel that it's more coming from such a deep fear of being emasculated that it's like this, it's just the masculine has been so many men, I feel like, whether you consider them to be really, really attractive or not so attractive, I believe every man has had the experience of being ignored or kind of sent energy by the feminine in a way that really hurts. So we can see how we're actually perpetuating the cycle. And when we emasculate a man, it's essentially pulling his power away from him. And then that's in essence what causes the masculine energy to want to pull power away from the feminine. So I believe our culture right now is male-female energies basically just trying to pull each other down out of fear, when really what we want is love, connection, union, respect, honor, devotion, just genuine mutual respect and appreciation and seeing each other. That's what we really want. So, and this is so interesting, what I'm seeing multiple people say is can't receive or trust, I don't trust, been hurt so many times when I open up to men. Yeah, so let's get into how to set these boundaries in a way that command respect, devotion, and commitment in a really beautiful way. So we are seeing, let's say 11, 12-year-old girls really become very sexualized themselves, wearing makeup, wearing booty shorts. It's kind of the Instagram culture of like, there's so much attack. There's so much programming directed directly toward the feminine, because the feminine is the magnetic receptive principle, which means that the coding and the programs that come through social media and other forms of media images and music and symbols all go directly into the subconscious mind. They don't really get filtered through the consciousness, which is like the divine masculine shield. Movies, music, images, symbols, all of those kinds of imagery go literally straight into the heart of our subconscious. In the subconscious, these programs begin to create themselves. So it's been very intentional that the feminine that this programming be directed toward the feminine, and that the programming in essence is you're an object, your value, your only value, your power is only in your your sexuality, and your value in the world is how ultimately you can be valued on this sexual physical level. We've received this programming which is so opposite to the true power of the feminine and of a woman. So, but we've received it so deeply because we literally are the magnetic principle. So we haven't necessarily had this shield. We've just straight up taken it in and then created. That's why, girls, like I feel 9 to 12 years old, are really expressing some just really sexualized self-expression in a way that's It's like this, there's a shame around having innocence, and there's a shame around having that sort of, let's see, one second. There's so much I want to say. It's like there's so much in this. So there's really been a focus on also youth being what's valuable, that being aging and older women, and it's that like youth is what's valuable, and anything beyond that is not going to be as attractive, not going to be as valuable. So there's this focus on youth. There's also no coming of age ceremonies or rituals or processes that we go through kind of collectively as a society, at least here in the West, that honor the path of womanhood. So with these two, lack of this, ritual honoring of stepping into your womanhood, and this focus on youth being valuable, youth being beauty, youth being what is what the masculine wants. I feel this is really big and new. So I'm just sharing it for the first time with you guys. I truly feel that our culture of the feminine within every woman, we have stunted our growth and maturity on a subconscious level because we've been told that youth is what is valuable. And the detriment of this is that we then step into full womanhood with the consciousness of a teenager or a preteen. We're not willing to own and embrace the true power and responsibility that a woman, a true woman, adult, grown woman holds. So, just going to let that sit for a second. And you can just notice what's coming up within you, any resistance to this, any anxiety, any feelings that are rising up right now. And you may resonate with this or not, but just, if this feels resonant at all, we're just kind of having a conversation here. Okay, so I'll get to you in a second, DP. So with this, we're also conditioned to be on this really sad line of feeling shame if we, let's say, haven't had a lot of sexual experiences. I remember when I was in college and I hadn't necessarily had a lot of sexual experiences. I felt shame around that. I felt shame around this naive, inexperienced. In my inexperiencedness, I felt shame in that. And then yet also we get shamed for being hypersexual or having sex with a lot of people. So there's shame on both sides of being inexperienced and then extremely sexual. So where are we supposed to go? Either way, we're experiencing shame. And for as long as women are experiencing shame around their sexual energy, our power is being drained out of us. We're literally like taking our heart Shakti force, divine feminine energy, and just handing it over again and again every time we feel shame. So this is what I call being in a state of submission. And I have more on the difference between submission and surrender spiritually and sexually. And ultimately, submission, there's many layers to submission and surrender, but there's a lower submission, a dark submission that ultimately is how we as women have been programmed to essentially hand over our power, our sexual energy in ways that drain us, deplete us, and keep us bound and keep us very easily exploited. So part of this programming in our youth being what's valuable has kept us from maturing into the energy that allows us to protect ourselves in a warm, strong way. That's what we get to step into. In this movement, an elevated woman, what I stand for is this archetype of the feminine in a woman, and the feminine energy and the masculine energy embodied in a woman in such a way that this planet has never seen before. that we get to own all of our power right now and say no to the conditioning and the programming that keeps us bound. It's not, ultimately, we have to become so unavailable for that energy. And there's a reason I'm speaking and embodying myself in this way right now, because ultimately it takes this level of straight up intolerance to that conditioning in order to really step into our power. In that, we can stay in our hearts, and we can essentially like protect the innocence of this planet, protect the innocence of every man, woman, and child, protect the innocence and the purity of the emotion and the heart. But we can do that in a way that can be fierce and strong, and also absolutely loving. All right. So wondering what's coming up for all of you as you're listening to this. I get a lot of passion energy when I speak to you guys about this. It's really big stuff. So, and I think the reason that is because, the feminine in essence is vulnerable. It's soft in its nature. And I stand for a world where that vulnerability is protected, not exploited. And I think we've all experienced feeling a certain level of our power being drained or taken away. So it's not to feel scared. You can connect to those feelings. So what is the fear telling you, or what is coming up underneath that experience of being scared right now? Because that's really real. And I honor that so much because, part of my job, I feel like, is to not dilute this message, really. It's my ego prevents me from sharing it because it feels so scary to share this stuff, but my heart begs to talk about it because this is so important. All right. All right. So we're going to do an exercise in just a little bit that will explain it. Yes, Kitty, perfect. Can you explain the science behind the activation and imprints, how the imprints work? I think you're speaking of the activations that I lead on this channel and in my trainings. Is it because of the law of attraction? Is a magic formula, heal trauma and vibrationally reach for what you want? So the reason that the activations work, and we're going to do it at the end of this video, the reason that the activations work is because they work with the subconscious mind and the creative imagination, which is the goddess energy. It's where when we were all little girls, we were playing in the grass with daisies, and I definitely imagined fairies and best friends that weren't actually real life. But ultimately, we're creating an experience. We're creating a feeling within us. Feelings are what attract things into physical form. So that's why, this work is so powerful, because we're ultimately working with the feeling force, which is the ultimate magnet. When you go into the state of relaxation and calm and receptivity in your body, you go into your parasympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight can kind of turn off, your consciousness can kind of turn off, and then you're open to receive visualizations that come from your own creative imagination that allow you to open to your highest potential. So vibrant color, experiences with the divine masculine, with intimacy, with self-expression, with healing, that may or may not have happened in the physical realm yet, but you can conjure up this experience internally that then gives you this vibrational imprint of that in the external world. And once you have that vibrational imprint activated and revealed within yourself, then it's hard to go back. You can't undo that process of revealing your power in your subconscious. So now it's much more easy to experience the feelings that you felt in that deep state of relaxation, but you're holding them in your aura, you're holding them in your field, and they come to you. All right, so I agree. At some point, I felt ashamed for not having a one-night stand kind of life. However, I don't plan to change that. I want to express my sexuality in a committed relationship. So yeah, and every single person here has had a totally different experience around their sexual energy, their body, and what they've experienced in their life. And not one is better or worse than another. Not a single one of our past experiences is wrong. And the quicker we can elevate out of shame around that and own that our power really is connected to our sexual energy, that, if sexual energy wasn't so powerful, then the feminine wouldn't be as targeted as it is for this subtle manipulation and programming. There also wouldn't be as much exploitation and abuse of the feminine. All right. So that's like, actually, if we flip it in that way, we can flip shame and we can really be actually empowered, see the power that we hold around our sexuality and around our sexual power. So DP, I'm going to go back to this question really quick. Does meditation help us into our feminine energy? I've recently started to meditate and feel more positive. Even new people I meet tell me I'm a very positive person. Yes. Anytime we meditate, we're closing our eyes, which activates the subconscious. We go into the feminine instantly, because the feminine is the inner world. The outer world is the consciousness, the awareness of the screen in front of me and your words that are coming down. And that's our consciousness. That's us being in our masculine. But when we go internal, we can become aware of the experience we're having on a physical, sensual feeling, in a feeling emotional way. All of those things are the feminine. So when you close your eyes, you're going out of your conscious and into your subconscious. It's like more like the dream place. And have much closer access to your creative imagination, because you're not being infiltrated by the physical world around you. You're going inward. And that's all. And then you're also, especially if you go into your heart space and you center in here, the energy in your body begins to move, because wherever your focus goes, energy flows. So when you focus inward, you close your eyes and you move into your body, you move into your breath, you're literally letting your energy move inside of your body. And your energy is the feminine, Shakti. It's your power, is that energy. So every single time, and the more often in your life you close your eyes, tune in just for a few breaths or 20 minutes or an hour or more, you really are activating your power as a woman. This is part of setting boundaries, and I'm going to talk about this in just a moment. So true. It's not only the masculine that creates shame, the wounded feminine also drains our Shakti. How to set boundaries for wounded feminine energy, for example, wounded feminine in family. Yeah, that's a really beautiful question. So let me just feel that. So we'll go into boundary setting in just a moment. Last thing I want to say on this is really, so another way that some of the ways that we're in a state of submission or we're in our immature feminine are, let's say, when we're avoiding the eye contact of man because we're afraid, we're trying to protect ourselves, or when we're sending out so much sexual energy in our field that we're really, I've definitely been connected to my sexual energy my entire life in really, really deep ways that have been actually catalysts for a lot of healing in my life. But I've had to learn that, ultimately, and I learned this, I was talking to my mentor, Shannon Port, and she was really supportive in helping me recognize this, that some women, and I know this was me and is me still, and I'm shifting it, but we can send out a sexual coding, like we can send out a sexual energy just through our field. And that energy, it can come from a place that is either, this is what I learned from her specifically, Shannon Port, that it can come from a place often of somehow being wounded toward, some wounded relationship toward the masculine energy. It can come from seeking validation, it can come from deep insecurity. But when we send out that sexual energy, we're wanting attention, we're wanting that validation, but it's like we're not able to contain it. And that can actually be really, it can work against you in attracting a divine masculine partner. Because a divine masculine partner doesn't really tolerate the feminine when it's just so openly sexual without the discernment and the power to protect its own self. that is just a little, it's not that it's bad, but there's another layer to maturity. And that's what we're talking about in this video, is how to elevate to that next level of feminine maturity so that you're able to remain connected to your sexual energy. You're able to be in that soft, warm, open, receptive space, but also you are absolutely clear about what it is you're attracting, what you're not available for, and you have that ability to really contain your energy, attract exactly what you want. And that's the thing, when we learn this, when we mature into this next level of femininity, we actually become more effective in attracting empowering situations, and we receive higher levels of validation than we ever did before. So just notice if you feel in your life, I knew for myself that everywhere I went, it was sort of like I was always kind of wanting that attention from the masculine. And when I got really real with myself, it was coming from this place of deep insecurity. So it's not to be to beat ourselves up, but just to build some awareness and ask your higher self, if you feel like this is resonating with you, ask your higher self what to do to shift out of that if you feel called to. All right, so shutting down. Yeah, and so this is one last thing. I was talking to my my boyfriend today about this, and I've never really liked the word boyfriend, honestly. I just feel like beloved is way more my style. But anyway, we were talking about this and how he was straight up saying that the feminine women have really been conditioned to, I so agree, like we really have received this message that we need to be enough for the masculine, that we need to please the masculine, and we need to be enough sexually for the masculine. So much of our wiring has shifted, we've been wired with this awareness of, is my energy pleasing right now? And am I going to be able to attract what I need? Part of this is the primal survival codes, but part of this is also like this, as he was saying this morning is really powerful, this materialism, that what we have been conditioned to feel is valuable, we want to be someone that will attract someone that can provide these things that ultimately make us valuable. It's a little bit complicated, but you can just receive what you're meant to in that. So I just want to just be clear with this. Everything we're experiencing right now, you're actually being programmed by me. Right now, my voice is programming you. And that's why ultimately, if we're in our feminine power, I've always said, I want to surrender in a love relationship to a divine masculine partner, but I'm not willing to surrender to a divine masculine partner who doesn't know how to take me to my absolute highest. In a true divine love relationship, the divine masculine is so conscious that it can actually see where to take the feminine and where to take the relationship in a way that will lead it to its absolute highest destiny and possibility. That's the divine masculine power, is this foresight, this foreskin of awareness that is really here to take us to our absolute highest. And this can be in sexual experiences as well. When the feminine goes inward, closing her eyes, dropping into her body, dropping into her senses, feeling deeper and deeper and deeper, the masculine grows more conscious, more aware of that experience. So it's this polarizing thing that happens in divine love, where the feminine gets deeper into her subconscious feminine feeling experience embodied, and the masculine grows in this high level consciousness awareness. And it's literally the divine experiencing itself, and vice versa. So this is so crazy powerful. Part of what we get to do as women is really, really own that we are the magnetic principle. So we are constantly absorbing and receiving from the world around us. I received a download recently that one of the ways that we're actually meant to be empowered is to basically be able to open up this void inside of the womb space that essentially transmutes energy throughout the month. Because we're constantly absorbing, we are the magnetic principle, we're constantly receiving energies in all forms. But so it gets into our body. And if we don't have a way to essentially process and release that energy, then it can get really pent up and can really cause us to have these intense emotional experiences. I personally feel that like the womb space, when we activate that void, we're more easily able to do our power, to be in our power and receive and release, receive and release, receive and release, receive and birth, receive and birth, receive and birth. Then our moon cycle, our period, that menstruation is that kind of like that extra releasing of those energies that we received. So anyway, I had that download a couple months ago and it was really powerful. Every time I'm in my masculine energy throughout the day, am I pushing the masculine away even if he is not present? No, definitely not. I think it's really important to be like, I have to be in my masculine energy in order to do certain things in my work, but it doesn't mean that it's actually, I've made it a practice to then be able to so polarize back into my feminine. It's like, kind of as far as you can go in one direction is as far as you can go in the other direction if you do the revealing work and healing work to do it. So I would not say that you're pushing him away. There is a certain level that we're so connected, all of us, especially as partners, so that we can all feel each other. But no, especially if you're doing things that ultimately are going to make you feel good, then no. So let's move into this practice really briefly. Okay. So setting boundaries. All right. Setting boundaries is really about being willing to take responsibility for your life, being willing to take responsibility for your wounds, your traumas, and being willing to do the work to step up to another level of life. Because so much of healing is, yes, there's a lot, we've all experienced trauma, but a lot of times we can get literally addicted to the discomfort. And that's what we want to become aware of, is when we're addicted to our discomfort, we are perpetuating our own disempowerment. So I was recently doing a coaching call with a client in the feminine elevation system. And, really one of my questions to her was, are you actually wanting to shift? Are you actually wanting to elevate or not? And it's a beautiful question to ask all of ourselves, because we get so comfortable in our misery